Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be looking at leadership,
Okay.
strategy, and even a bit of faith, all through the lens of 2 Samuel 5.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's a pretty action-packed chapter. I mean, you've got David becoming king over all of Israel,
Right.
his capture of Jerusalem, and even some pretty big wins against the Philistines.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
Yeah.
But how did he manage all this? Was it just, brute force?
Hmm.
Or is there something more to it? And what can we learn from all this, for our own lives today?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is. And to help us unpack it all, we've got our expert here.
Happy to be here.
So glad you could make it.
Well, this chapter is really fascinating because it shows us a leader, in transition,
Yeah.
facing all these new challenges and opportunities. I mean, we
Right.
see David go from leading just one tribe, Judah, to uniting all the tribes of Israel under his rule.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
That's not easy to do.
No, it's not. So 2 Samuel 5 kicks off
Yeah.
with all the tribes of Israel coming together, right? And they anoint David as king in Hebron.
Right.
He rules from there for a bit. But then
He's got his eyes set on something else.
he does. He sets his sights on Jerusalem.
And Jerusalem back then, that was a big deal. It was controlled by the Jebusites, and it was like prime real estate strategically.
Yeah.
Capturing. It wasn't just about military power, it was like a symbolic move,
Right.
a show of strength and unity.
Absolutely. But it wasn't exactly a walk in the park, was it? I mean, the
Yeah.
Jebusites were pretty sure their city was impenetrable.
Well, yeah, they were very confident.
They even taunted David.
Yeah.
They told him there's no way he could conquer the city unless he took away the blind and the lame.
They were basically saying, come on, bring it on.
Yeah, it was like, come on, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
They thought Jerusalem was unbreakable.
They really did. But this is where David's strategic thinking comes in.
Okay, so tell me more about this.
Well, the text, it mentions a gutter. Historians think this might have been like a hidden water shaft, or a channel that supplied the city.
Oh, interesting.
And it seems like David, he used this to his advantage, to get into Jerusalem and capture it.
So instead of just, brute force,
Yeah.
he used his knowledge of the city itself.
To outsmart them.
Yeah, like an ancient version of thinking outside the box.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about this thing. So David's success here shows us a huge principle of leadership.
What's that?
Adaptability.
Okay.
He didn't just stick to the usual tactics, he looked at the situation,
Yeah.
found a hidden opportunity, and then bam, he used it.
Brilliantly.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good lesson for anyone facing a challenge, isn't it?
definitely.
Sometimes the solution is just looking at things from a different perspective,
Yeah,
being resourceful,
absolutely.
using what you already have in a
Cool.
creative way.
Totally. Absolutely. And you see this adaptability even more when David makes Jerusalem his capital.
Oh, really? How?
He makes this alliance with Hiram, the king of Tyre,
Oh, wow.
which was a pretty smart move.
Why was that such a big deal?
Well, Tyre was this powerhouse,
Yeah.
known for its craftsmen and their skills at sea.
Right, right.
This alliance basically protected David's western border
Okay.
and gave him access to all these resources and experts,
I see.
which he used to build up Jerusalem.
Smart.
It's a good example of a leader who's not afraid to rely on the strengths of others.
Right. It's realizing you don't have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about working together.
Collaboration.
Exactly. Building those partnerships, to reach your goals.
Absolutely.
But of course, leadership isn't just about alliances and building projects.
No.
David had some real military challenges too,
Oh, yeah.
especially from the Philistines.
That's right. They were a constant threat to the Israelites.
Yeah.
And they were definitely not happy about David getting more powerful.
So what happened?
Well, they attacked him multiple times.
I bet.
And in these battles, we see a different side of David's leadership.
What do you mean?
He relied on more than just military power.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he consistently inquired of the Lord before going into battle.
So he was looking for guidance.
Yeah, trying to figure out the best way to act.
That's an important point, isn't it? I mean, even though he was this great warrior,
Yeah.
David recognized he wasn't in this alone.
Right.
He knew it was important to seek wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
guidance, whether through prayer or reflecting or talking to advisors.
It's a reminder that even the best leaders need to be humble
Yeah.
to admit they don't have all the answers.
I wonder if that's part of what made him so effective.
Possibly.
It wasn't just arrogance or ambition.
Right.
It seems like he had a deeper purpose, a willingness to look beyond himself for guidance.
Exactly. And it's interesting that the spiritual side of him didn't stop him from being strategic and making tough decisions in battle.
Right, like he was both.
Exactly. We see him using different approaches depending on what was happening.
Give me an example.
Sometimes he was told to attack head on.
Yeah.
Other times he was told to be more cunning,
Yeah.
like ambushing the Philistines after waiting for a sign.
Oh, wow.
This shows us that seeking guidance doesn't mean just sitting around waiting.
Right.
It means being open to different ways of doing things
Yeah.
and changing your plans based on what you learn.
So we see David as this warrior, a strategist, a man of faith.
Right.
But till Samuel 5 also gives us a look at a more personal side of him.
Yeah.
After moving to Jerusalem, he takes more wives and concubines.
That's right. That was pretty common for kings back then.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. A way to make alliances stronger and show their power.
I see.
But it also shows us the complications,
Mm,
maybe even the flaws of even the most respected leaders.
that's a good point. It reminds us that leadership isn't just about making the big decisions.
Yeah.
It's also about navigating relationships,
Yeah.
your personal life.
Which we all know can get messy.
It definitely adds another layer to David's story.
It does. And as we see later on, these personal choices have consequences,
Oh, I'm sure.
good and bad ones.
Wow. So what do you think are the biggest takeaways from 2 Samuel 5 for us today? What can we learn from David's experiences thousands of years later?
Well, there are a lot of lessons packed in here.
Yeah.
We see how important unity is.
Bringing people together.
Exactly. Working towards the same goal.
That's always relevant.
It is. We also see the power of strategic thinking,
Mm-hmm.
looking beyond the obvious and finding creative solutions.
And we see how important it is to seek guidance,
Yeah.
to realize we don't have to figure it all out ourselves.
And let's not forget that leadership is a journey.
Not a destination.
Exactly. There will be wins and losses.
Highs and lows.
Yeah, it's how we deal with those challenges, how we learn and adapt that really makes us good leaders.
That's so true.
Yeah, it really is amazing how these old stories can still speak to us, you know?
Yeah, it's like, even though we're not facing armies like David did, we all have our own battles to fight.
We do our own challenges.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me from David's story is that
What's that?
it's not about being this perfect leader.
No.
It's about embracing the messiness.
The ups and downs.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
It's all part of it.
And maybe it's in those tough moments, when things don't go so well,
Yeah.
that we learn the most.
That's a good point. Like with David's decision to take more wives.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, it was a strategic move, like we talked about.
Right.
Fit in with how things were done back then.
Yeah.
But it also caused problems.
Heartbreak.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about
About what?
finding that balance.
Yeah.
Between ambition and integrity,
Yeah.
between achieving success and staying true to yourself.
That's a struggle for leaders of any time, you know?
It really is. And another thing that strikes me about David's story
Yeah.
is how he went about finding guidance and wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't just rely on himself, his own strength or smarts.
Mm-hmm.
He actively sought out advice.
Yeah.
He looked for signs. He recognized something bigger than himself.
That's a powerful reminder for us, I think.
It is in a world that's all about doing it yourself.
Right.
Finding the quick fix. It's a powerful lesson to see David taking a step back,
Yeah.
to listen, to understand before jumping into action.
I agree. So as we wrap up our deep dive into 2 Samuel 5,
Yeah.
I think we're left with a lot to think about.
How do we find that balance between ambition and integrity in our own lives? How do we become more adaptable, more resourceful in the face of challenges?
Good.
Right? When we're faced with those tough choices,
Yeah.
where do we turn for guidance?
Big questions to wrestle with.
They really are. But as you keep thinking about David's story,
Yeah.
maybe you'll find your own answers,
Mm-hmm.
your own insights that can help you navigate leadership strategy and faith.
In your own journey.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
We'll see you then.